You think you know airborne warfare. Dropped behind lines, light weapons, heroic holds until relief arrives. But what happens when 22,000 paratroopers drop not to hold ground, but to shatter an entire island defense? Crete, May 1941. The first and largest airborne invasion in military history. German Fallschirmjäger against 42,000 Commonwealth defenders dug into mountain positions. Hitler called it his greatest gamble. Churchill called the defenders unbreakable. One of them was catastrophically wrong. If you value documented World War II history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the German Federal Military Archives and Churchill's war memoirs. Now back to the story. Operation Mercury launches at dawn, May 20th. Students 11th Air Corps, the Luftwaffe's entire paratrooper force, boards 502 Junkers 52s and 72 gliders. Target, 4 airfields across Crete's northern coast. Malem in the west. Rethymno in the center. Heraklion in the east. Chania's Suda Bay. The defenders know they're coming. Bernard Freyberg commands New Zealand, Australian, British, and Greek units. 42,000 men with 2 months to prepare. Trenches, wire, pre-sighted artillery. Every airfield is a killing ground. The first wave hits Maleme at 7:15 a.m. Hill 107 overlooks the runway. New Zealand's 22nd Battalion holds the high ground. German gliders crash land directly on the airfield. Most are destroyed on impact. Paratroopers drop into pre-ranged kill zones. Machine guns cut them down in midair. By noon, German casualties exceed 60%. The assault is failing. General Student watches from his command bunker in Athens. Radio reports flood in. Group West at Maleme, decimated. Group Center at Chania, scattered. Group East, split between Rethymno and Heraklion, both pinned down. Goering demands immediate success. Student has committed his entire airborne reserve. No reinforcements exist. At Maleme, Major Koch's glider regiment lies shattered across the runway. His own glider crashed into a stone wall. Koch dies with 17 bullet wounds. His men never reach their objectives, the airfield control tower and fuel dumps. New Zealand machine gunners sweep the runway from concealed positions. German dead pile up in the wire. But the Fallschirmjäger adapt. Captain Gericke rallies survivors in Dead Man's Gulch, a dry riverbed west of the airfield. 37 men with 2 machine guns and no radio. They can't take the airfield, but they can observe Hill 107. Every New Zealand movement is visible from their position. Gericke's spotters count muzzle flashes, estimate defensive strength, map the trench system, intelligence that will matter later. While Maleme bleeds, the second wave targets Chania and Rethymno. 1,200 men drop on Prison Valley south of Chania. Australian 19th Brigade waits in concealed positions. The Germans land scattered across 4 miles of rough terrain. No radio contact, no heavy weapons. Australian counterattacks eliminate entire companies. By evening, the surviving Germans hold 3 isolated hill positions. Nothing more. Lieutenant Colonel Heydrich commands the 3rd Paratrooper Regiment at Prison Valley. His drop zone is a nightmare. Olive groves, stone walls, terraced hillsides, perfect defensive terrain. His men land in groups of 10 to 20, scattered across the valley floor. Australian patrols hunt them systematically. Heydrich's radio is destroyed in the drop. He fights blind for 18 hours before establishing contact with students' headquarters. The Australian defense is methodical. Captain Walker's company moves through the olive groves in 3-man teams. Standard operating procedure: 2 men provide covering fire while the 3rd advances. Every German position is flanked and eliminated. No prisoners are taken. Walker's after-action report lists 87 confirmed kills and 0 Australian casualties. The professional infantry destroying amateur airborne troops. At Rethymno, Australian 2nd, 28th Battalion and Greek units occupy the airfield itself. 1,500 German paratroopers drop at 2 p.m. The defenders don't wait for them to organize. Immediate assault from prepared positions. The Germans never take the runway. They're pushed into olive groves south of the field, where Australian patrols hunt them through the night. Radio intercepts confirm their commander is killed in the first hour. Colonel Crow's 2nd Paratrooper Regiment suffers the worst casualties of the entire operation. His men drop directly onto the Rethymno airfield, while Australian Bren gunners fire from slit trenches beside the runway. The slaughter is total. Crow himself lands in a minefield planted by Greek engineers. His adjutant, Major Schultz, assumes command of the scattered survivors. By midnight, Schultz commands fewer than 200 effective troops from an original force of 1,500. Greek irregulars join the hunt. Cretan peasants armed with shotguns, hunting rifles, and agricultural tools. They know every goat path and cave system. German paratroopers who escaped the initial Australian assault face a civilian population trained in guerrilla warfare since the Ottoman occupation. No quarter asked or given. Heraklion tells the same story. British 14th Infantry Brigade holds the airfield and port. 2,000 German paratroopers drop at 5:30 p.m. Anti-aircraft guns fire over open sights into the transport aircraft. 17 Junkers, 52s crash in flames. The survivors land in small groups across 6 miles. British counterattacks begin immediately. By midnight, German resistance centers on 2 warehouses near the harbor. That's all they hold. Brigadier Chappell commands the Heraklion defense. His men include the 2nd Leicestershire Regiment, the York and Lancaster Regiment, and the 2nd Black Watch. Professional soldiers with 8 months of desert training. They treat the German paratroopers like a live fire exercise. Methodical, ruthless, effective. The Germans landing at Heraklion face an additional nightmare, the harbor's anti-aircraft battery. 24 3-inch guns commanded by Captain Ballantyne. As the Junkers transport formation approaches, Ballantyne orders all guns to depress their barrels to minimum elevation. Direct fire into the aircraft stream. The German pilots have nowhere to turn. 17 aircraft explode before reaching the drop zone. The survivors carry wounded and dying paratroopers who land in no condition to fight. Mercury is collapsing. 3 of 4 airfields remain in Allied hands. German casualties approach 70%. Students' entire paratrooper force faces annihilation. But at Malem, one New Zealand company makes a decision that breaks the entire defense. Captain Campbell's company holds Hill 107, the key to Malem Airfield. German survivors mass in Dead Man's Gulch below the hill. No organized attack, just scattered groups, but Campbell's radio reports heavy pressure. Lieutenant Colonel Andrew requests permission to withdraw the Hill garrison to consolidate the battalion line. Freiberg approves the withdrawal at 11 p.m. The withdrawal decision haunts military historians. Campbell's company suffers 12 casualties in 18 hours of fighting. Light losses for an infantry unit under sustained attack. His ammunition is adequate, 400 rounds per Bren gun, 20 rounds per rifleman. German pressure consists of sporadic sniper fire and 2 failed probes by squads of 8 to 10 men. No evidence suggests the position is untenable. Andrew's reasoning centers on battalion cohesion. His 22nd Battalion is spread across 3 miles of rough terrain. Hill 1. 07 sits 2,000 yards west of his main defensive line. If Campbell's company is overrun, the battalion loses its strongest unit and gains nothing. Better to consolidate all companies in mutually supporting positions. Freiberg approves because he trusts Andrew's tactical judgment. The 22nd Battalion fought with distinction in Greece 1 month earlier. Andrew's leadership during the retreat from Thermopylae impressed Corps headquarters. When a proven battalion commander requests permission to adjust his defensive line, higher command rarely refuses. Hill 107 is abandoned. At dawn, May 21st, German engineers examine the empty hilltop positions. Sergeant Braun leads the reconnaissance patrol, 4 men with rifles and a radio. They find prepared trenches, abundant ammunition, and no defenders. Braun's radio report reaches Student within minutes. The runway lies open below. Student immediately diverts every available transport to Malem. The German response is instantaneous. Every Junkers 52 in Greece receives new orders. Forget the scattered drops at Chania, Rethymno, and Heraklion. Concentrate everything on Maleme. The 5th Mountain Division waits at Athens Airfield with full combat equipment. Load them immediately. Junkers, 52s, land under artillery fire. Each aircraft carries mountain troops, ammunition, anti-tank guns. The defenders counterattack throughout the day but cannot retake the hill. German reinforcements pour onto the airfield. Major Stenzler's Mountain Battalion deploys directly from the aircraft to defensive positions on Hill 107, the positions that Campbell's company abandoned 12 hours earlier. The 1st Mountain Regiment lands between 6 a.m. and noon on May 21st. 43 aircraft sorties deliver 800 troops with mortars, machine guns, and anti-tank weapons. Each landing is contested. New Zealand artillery pounds the runway continuously. Several aircraft are destroyed on the ground, but the German buildup continues. General Ringel himself arrives on the 15th aircraft sortie, 5th Mountain Division commander, veteran of Norway and Poland campaigns. He brings his entire divisional staff and communications equipment. By afternoon, Maleme has a functioning German headquarters with direct radio contact to Athens and Berlin. The tactical situation transforms overnight. Scattered German paratroopers at Prison Valley, Rethymno, and Heraklion remain pinned down. But Maleme becomes the base for conventional mountain warfare. Ringel's troops advance east along the coastal road. The airborne phase of Mercury is over. The mountain campaign begins. If you value documented World War II history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the German Federal Military Archives and Churchill's war memoirs. Now back to the story. By May 22nd, an entire mountain division has landed at Malem. Ringel takes command of all German forces on Crete. The paratroopers at Chania, Rethymno, and Heracleon are still trapped in small pockets. But now they become anvils against which Ringel's mountain troops can hammer the Allied defense. The mountain troops bring capabilities the paratroopers lack. Pack artillery, 75mm guns broken down for air transport, engineering equipment for bridge construction and demolition, most critically, sustained logistical support. The airfield at Malem can handle 40 aircraft landings per day. Each sortie brings ammunition, fuel, medical supplies, and replacement troops. Ringel's first objective is linking up with the scattered paratrooper units. His mountain regiments advance in 3 columns. The main force follows the coastal road toward Chania. The second column strikes south into the White Mountains to outflank the Allied defensive line. The third column remains at Malem as airfield security and operational reserve. The coastal advance meets immediate resistance. New Zealand engineers have blown every bridge between Maleme and Chania. Mountain streams become defensive obstacles. Stone walls provide prepared firing positions for Allied rearguard actions. Every village becomes a brief battlefield, but the Allied defense suffers from divided command. Freyberg controls Commonwealth forces. Greek General Papadakis commands local troops. Coordination breaks down under pressure. Allied units retreat on separate schedules along different routes. The cohesive defense fragments into isolated battles. At Galatas, so. The New Zealand division makes its final stand. Maori battalion and Australian units hold the village approaches for 18 hours, house-to-house fighting through stone buildings and terraced hillsides. German mountain troops take massive casualties but keep advancing. The Allied line breaks on May 24th. Full retreat to the southern beaches begins. The Galatas battle demonstrates why mountain troops succeed where paratroopers failed. Major von der Heide leads the assault with methodical preparation. Artillery bombards each building before infantry assault. Bangalore torpedoes clear wire obstacles. Flamethrowers eliminate machine gun positions. The paratroopers dropped with rifles and grenades. The mountain troops bring the tools of siege warfare. Captain Charles Upham of the New Zealand 20th Battalion wins the Victoria Cross during the Galatas fighting. His citation reads like fiction, destroying machine gun positions with grenades, leading bayonet charges against superior numbers, carrying wounded comrades under fire. Upham kills at least 22 German soldiers in 2 days of fighting. He survives Galatas only to be captured during the retreat to the beaches. The retreat becomes a disaster. Allied forces abandon heavy equipment to maintain mobility. Artillery pieces are destroyed rather than captured. Ammunition dumps are blown to deny them to the Germans. Motor transport is reserved for wounded personnel. The infantry walk 60 miles across the White Mountains in 3 days. Cretan civilians pay the heaviest price. German reprisals begin immediately after the airborne assault. Civilians who killed paratroopers face execution by firing squad. Entire villages are burned if weapons are discovered. The German 12th Army issues explicit orders. No mercy for franc-tireurs or civilian combatants. The village of Kandanos illustrates German brutality. Cretan irregulars kill 25 German paratroopers during the first day of fighting. On May 23rd, mountain troops surround the village. Every male over 16 is shot. Women and children are driven into the hills. The village is burned completely. A roadside monument reads, Kandanos was destroyed in retaliation for the ambush murder of paratroopers. Evacuation starts May 28th. Royal Navy destroyers and cruisers run the gauntlet of Stuka attacks to lift troops from Sfakia Beach. 4 nights of desperate boarding operations. Soldiers wade chest deep through surf to reach the ships. German aircraft attack throughout each evacuation run. HMS Gloucester and HMS Fiji are sunk with all hands. HMS Formidable takes bomb damage that nearly sinks her. Admiral Cunningham commands the evacuation fleet from HMS Warspite. His destroyers make 4 runs to Sfakia Beach under constant air attack. The Luftwaffe's 8th Air Corps has moved its entire bomber strength to Greek airfields. Every evacuation ship faces coordinated Stuka and Heinkel attacks during daylight hours. The naval losses are staggering. 2 cruisers and 4 destroyers sunk. 6 ships heavily damaged, 3,000 naval casualties, but 18,000 soldiers reach Egypt safely. The Royal Navy maintains its reputation. The evacuation fleet brings out more troops than were saved from Dunkirk in 1940. The numbers tell the story. 18,000 Allied troops evacuated, 5,000 killed or missing, 12,000 captured. Total Allied casualties, 17,000. German losses, 6,000 dead, wounded, and missing, but among the German dead are 4,000 paratroopers, the entire trained corps of Students' Airborne Corps. These casualties shock the German High Command. Students' 7th Airborne Division is effectively destroyed. The 5th Mountain Division takes 30% losses in 10 days of fighting. For Hitler, the price of Crete exceeds its strategic value. His directive dated June 1st explicitly bans future airborne operations larger than regimental strength. Goering faces personal humiliation. The Luftwaffe's elite paratroopers prove vulnerable to properly prepared defenses. His promise of cheap airborne victories is exposed as fantasy. Student's reputation as the father of airborne warfare survives, but his operational role ends. The 11th Air Corps becomes a conventional infantry command for the remainder of the war. Hitler sees those casualty figures and bans all future large-scale airborne operations. The tool that could have taken Malta, Cyprus, or the Suez Canal is broken. Student's paratroopers become ground infantry for the rest of the war. The price of Crete is the death of German airborne warfare. The strategic implications ripple across the Mediterranean. Operation Hercules, the planned airborne assault on Malta, is cancelled. German forces in North Africa never received the air support that Malta's capture would provide. Rommel's Africa Corps fights without secure supply lines for 2 more years. The Eastern Front also suffers. Student's paratroopers were slated for operations behind Soviet lines during Barbarossa. River crossings that could be seized by airborne assault instead require costly frontal attacks. The paratrooper units that survive Crete deploy as conventional infantry in the siege of Leningrad. Elite troops wasted in static warfare. Churchill recognizes Crete's true meaning immediately. His cable to Roosevelt dated June 3rd states, "The Germans have taught us that properly equipped paratroopers can seize strategic objectives. They have also shown us that the price of airborne warfare can be prohibitive. We must learn both lessons." Freyberg survives the defeat and commands New Zealand forces through North Africa and Italy. His reputation recovers during the Gothic Line battles of 1944. Andrew, the colonel who evacuated Hill 107 Twirs, is captured during the retreat. He spends 4 years in German prison camps, never explaining why he abandoned the key terrain that cost Crete. Andrew's silence becomes military legend. Fellow prisoners report that he refuses to discuss the Malem decision. Court-martial proceedings after the war are dropped due to insufficient evidence of dereliction of duty. Andrew retires to a sheep farm in Canterbury and dies in 1968 without writing memoirs or granting interviews. Some mysteries resolve with time. German archives captured in 1945 reveal Student's original plan. The Malemi assault was intended as a feint. The main effort targeted Chania Harbor, where German seaborne forces would land on May 21st. But Royal Navy destroyers intercept the invasion fleet. Every German transport ship is sunk. Without Chania Harbor, Student's entire plan depends on capturing Malemi Airfield. Andrew's withdrawal makes the difference between German victory and disaster. In 1997, construction crews building a resort hotel near Malem Airfield uncover a mass grave, 68 skeletons and German paratrooper equipment, bullet wounds to the back of the skull. No identification tags. The hotel construction stops. The grave is covered with concrete and never officially reported. Hill 107 still overlooks the runway where 22,000 paratroopers gambled everything on a single hill. The ghosts won.